Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world and whenever you are tuning into this video. My name is James Porcelli.
I'm Brian Thomas.
And welcome to another very, very special edition of the Ruthless Talk podcast. We got AEW ratings to talk about. We got SmackDown and a big debut from a future or a now current bloodline member. This new bloodline that is starting to form before its very eyes, and it's getting us hyped for not just Money in the Bank, not just SummerSlam, but for War Games, as there's a lots more to be excited about War Games after what transpired.
There's a lot of Samoans
Friday.
out there, man.
A lot of Samoans. I mean, we know about that family heritage, man. It continues to be bigger than we ever freaking thought, or whatever we expected, bro. And it's just getting started, man. Who knows? We could be seeing more of these.
As many members of that family that already have come through, and some of them were I was a fan favorite of back in the day, but this definitely, this is absolutely the height of that family's notoriety and success, man. And they're absolutely, man, take that shit to the moon.
Shout out to Cameron Grimes, man. Right. Shout out to that dude. But we will get to all of that. There's a lot to go over with the main events. That whole discussion will be the main event of the show. Of course, SmackDown, there's a bunch of stuff to go over for SmackDown. Of course, we're getting closer to Money in the Bank in regards to that PLE. That PLE, we will be dropping that PLE in the next several weeks when that pay-per-view comes out. So make sure you guys stay tuned for it, man. So before we jump into SmackDown, and of course, this past episode, we talked a lot of things, actually. We spoke about the Wyatt Six. We spoke about Drew quitting WWE, allegedly, storytelling-wise, quitting WWE. Spoke about a lot of things from last episode. And if you haven't checked out last episode, make sure you guys go check it out on our platforms, YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. So make sure you guys go check it out if you have not already. But what we did not talk about was AEW, and as well as AEW Dynamite, as Forbidden Door is right around the corner, coming up on June 30th. June 30th will be Forbidden Door at the most magical place on earth, Long Island, New York. Shout out to MJF. But the talk of the wrestling world is about AEW Dynamite, and not just the show, but the rating that came in for this said show, which pulled in, guys, wait for it, 502,000. Man, and I don't know about you, Brian, but of course, when it comes to me as a fan, as well as a critic, and being as fair and as honest that I can be in this wrestling community, I always take ratings and numbers in regards to what the product and how fans are interested in the product. And it's just like, because at first I thought, like, okay, no, this has to be some sort of glitch. This has to be some sort of mistake. Have quarterly hours came out. Maybe something happened there. No, guys, this was the legit rating, as NXT beat them by, I want to say, about 150 to 200,000. I believe their overall rating this week was 724,000 over AEW Dynamite this week from 502,000. Wow, man, it's just, listen, I know for some people, because there's a lot of tribalists or a lot of tribalism in this wrestling community. On one end, people are like, yes, fuck AEW, can't wait. Like, they're dead, they're in the ground. And then there's other freaking AEW fans that are just like devastated. They're freaking got their palms and hands in their freaking face, and they're like, what the hell is going on? But then there's also AEW fans that have just checked out. And these ratings are just complete evidence of that. And look, and I'll get to your thoughts, Brian, in just a second, but it's just so frustrating, man. And I've spoken about this for weeks, and I know I kind of sound like a broken record about it, but I've said it for the longest time about, not only does AEW need to bring in casual fans to their product at this point, but their niche audience that in droves have been pushing away for over the last 4 to 5 years And it's evident to where AEW for over a year now has been trying to finalize a television deal with Warner Bros. Discovery, an entire year, and they still can't finalize this fucking deal. That tells you everything you need to know. Chris Jericho has been really hammering home about that by really wanting to get this TV deal done. Tony Khan hasn't really been that vocal about it, but it's been Chris Jericho that's been really has been hammering home about it as of late. And look, man, I think at this point, Brian, there's really nothing about AEW that hasn't already been said about AEW, to where, yes, there's a lot of issues and a lot of problems, but it also is a shame because there's actually a lot of things in this company that are doing very well in AEW. Tony Storm is a great example, right? MJF, who could be tremendous as a babyface. It's still very early in its tenure, but it could still be very good. The Bucks taking over AEW alongside Okada and Jungle Boy, and this alleged war between the Elite and AEW, right? The freaking attack, the backstage attack when Kenny Omega was sent in a fucking ambulance, and that freaking story was never really properly built up or followed up. So it's just the massive inconsistency in booking and character development and just intrigue for not just 1 or 2 weeks, but for a long extended period of time. And it's a shame. It really is a shame. I feel bad, honestly. The one person that I truly feel bad for, Brian, especially when it comes for just AEW Dynamite television, is MJF. This dude just came back, and he's the head face, the head legit talent of this company, just signed this huge deal with AEW. He's got a shit ton of money in this contract, in this new deal, and he's performing in front of half-empty arenas and a television product that's pulling in 500 to maybe 600 some odd thousand viewers. And yeah, they might pull in another 100, maybe 150 some odd the following week. But for your flagship show, that's the main focal point of the show. And keep in mind, there's no NBA basketball. There's really no Hockey's over, right? Maybe I guess you got baseball, you got the college,
which is just about over. I mean,
which is already about over. That didn't start until just yesterday, this past Saturday. So there's really no said competition, and that's what's really baffling. Like, where are these people going? And you could kind of make the assumption is that they just don't care for it anymore. And the more we've spoken about this product, Brian, about how we both were so baffled about the whole Kenny Omega and Bucks feud, and why isn't Kenny Omega a part of this Anarchy in the Arena match? Why are they rushing this match, right? Why is MJF facing whoever the fuck his name is, a part of Cage of Agony this coming Sunday for Forbidden Door, right? Why does Tony Storm, the biggest and the most positive asset of your company, doesn't feel like a legit main asset to the show? Like, there's all these questions in this company, and yeah, we get it. Tony Khan, he's got millions upon millions of dollars. He's made of millions upon millions of dollars, as well as his father. But I mean, if Tony Khan truly cares, man, and I get it, he's got the money to pay whatever talent he wants and whatever the case may be. But if he truly is passionate about professional wrestling and the talent and just the business and the art of professional wrestling, I'm not going to call it a sport because you guys know where I would go with that. But you would think that at this point, Brian, Tony Khan needs to do something, because yeah, there might be a lot of good things in AEW right now, unless you're Eric Bischoff that just wants to shit on everything AEW as of late. I mean, it's just his shtick now. He'll just go on his pod. I don't know what the name of his pod is or his show, and he'll just shit about AEW for like 24 hours straight. But there is a lot of good things about AEW that's just not in the right setting, and that's not being followed up properly. And that starts with Tony Khan, right? And just, I guess, not having the right people in place, or just not knowing what the fuck he's doing. And just what we've said in the past is kind of being an amateur at this pro wrestling creative thing. And at this point, Brian, like, changes need to be made, because slowly but surely, to where maybe they won't go out of business. That could still be, I mean, who knows? But I don't think they're going to go out of business. I still think
No.
in the next 5 to 10 years, AEW will still be a thing. But in those next 5 to 10 years, is AEW still going to be like, the second tier of competition that is the head honcho of WWE? That's the question. And the answer at this rate is no. And that's what's unfortunate, as
Yeah.
people are leaving in droves, to where we see people like freaking Ethan Page is a great example of taking his ball and going to WWE, right? Cody Rhodes from the jump. We've spoken about
Andrade's
Cody
come
Rhodes.
back.
Andrade's come back, Jade Cargill, right? Eventually, Ricky Starks. You're going to see Ricky Starks in WWE.
Where the fuck has Ricky Starks been,
Where
by the way?
Exactly. Absolutely.
Holy shit. I mean,
nowhere.
dude,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know. I don't even know,
How
man.
hot that guy was at one point. Like, holy fuck. I mean, I dare to say, I for sure have not seen him in at least 6 months.
It's so disappointing, man. It really is. And I get it. Listen, Tony Khan, he's a great dude, and I'm sure he cares a lot about the talent and the business, but it's clear as day that this guy just, forget professional wrestling, but just doesn't know how to run this said company properly to put on consistent quality television. He just doesn't. And I don't know. We've spoken about Shane McMahon. There's been rumors about Shane McMahon. Is Shane McMahon the savior to maybe come on board?
Talk about fucking irony and like holy shit moments in wrestling. Oh my god,
that would be one of them for sure.
Yeah.
Again, honestly, I mean, never say never. I mean,
No,
as wild as that may sound, I literally legit think it's not far fetched to maybe potentially see Shane McMahon in AEW. Seriously, because I mean, he's not.
I have no doubt he wants to have a legacy 100% separate and far away from his father's.
Absolutely. Oh,
Yep.
yeah. And I've spoken about Shane McMahon and how much, respect I have for the dude. When of course, when Vince McMahon over the last 10 years has just lost that creative genius that he once was in the 80s and 90s. And Shane McMahon for multiple times said, dude, I'm out of here. He was the only maybe executive or suit and tie apart, as well as in his family, to say, dude, I'm out. Like, I'm done with this, as well as Linda McMahon. Shout out to her. So it's evident to where absolutely, Brian, like at this point, Shane McMahon, the only thing that he has in ties with WWE that's pretty much keeping him, I guess, his name of value, is his brother-in-law. That's Paul Levesque, Triple H, as well as his sister, Stephanie McMahon. And you're absolutely right, to where Shane McMahon would want to, start a new leaf in regards to, going over to this said company and making a legit name for himself. Like, this is what can happen if I'm, having my hand in the said cookie jar and maybe trying to get a said company like AEW back on the right track. I mean, who knows? It's not far-fetched that Shane McMahon, the pride that Shane McMahon has for himself, he could, again, it's not far-fetched to any degree. But I'll talk more about this. But
for
Brian,
people back in my era, man, I mean, when it was a legit thing where Shane wanted to and maybe was going to run WCW once they bought it. It didn't really work out that way, but that's a real thing that I think Shane wanted, was him to be able to run that. So yeah, man.
Yeah.
Who knows?
So Brian, what do you think, man? Talk to me. Your thoughts about this rating, your thoughts about AEW and just the state right now, man. I'll let you have the floor, since I've spoken a lot already over the last 14 minutes. So floor is yours, man. Take it away.
So, man, if you remember back when we started this, a year and a half ago, like, we kind of went back and forth of like how we were going to do the show and whatever. And there was like a point where, it was like, all right, maybe you, James, will do the WWE, portion, and I'll do, there was 2 shows for WWE, 2 shows for AEW, so you would do WWE and I do AEW. That's how much, like, I mean, at the time, a year and a half ago, man, like it was really, it's weird because it wasn't that long after we started the podcast. I mean, it wasn't but a few months into last year where shit just started going off the rails. And I dare I say, like, right around the beginning of last spring, they haven't been right since, man.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean 500,000. I mean that's low, man. I mean that's yeah, on a Wednesday night, 500,000. You know, I don't know what to. Anything I say, it just feels like piling on, man. I mean, look, they have so much. We've talked about it so much. Like they have a lot of talent, but they right now, creative, whoever that is, whoever the final say is, or whoever the final team is, they are horrible storytellers, man. Like horrible. Like just cannot tell a consistent story to save their fucking life, man. And I get it, you know, you want to sell your product as, you know, well, we're wrestling and we, you know, it's not this. And like, look, okay, fine, do that. But like, I just even think back to like the territory days, right? Where, you know, some of these matches, sure, they were classics, but, you know, a lot of them were not these, you know, athletic feats of whatever, you know, and they would go, you know, from town to town or whatever, stay a month or, you know, 3 months, whatever. They're building the story and building their character. Like you never see them wrestle, you know, maybe you see them on TV, you know, highlights here and there, and you're waiting for them to come to your city, right? And you've been waiting for a month, and you've been seeing these promos, you know, week after week, and the story develop week after week until they get to your town, and boom, they have the match. Like whether you want to, yes, wrestling has evolved, and it's much more athletic, and just like every other sport, like a 1,000 times faster, much more athletic. The performers are in much better shape. You know, all that stuff's true, but again, if you're not telling a story, if you're not selling characters in a storyline or building characters in a storyline and somebody connect to the audience with, I mean, okay, man, do your thing, but please don't tell me you're incompetent. Like, I mean, seriously, 500,000, like, I mean, okay, again, WWE's quote unquote developmental brand or whatever you want to call it is beating you right now. So your competition for you're not competition for TNA. You're not, you know, or maybe you are in some way, but like, I mean, take your pick, AEW or TNA, you know, whichever one you want to watch. And I would say TNA has better storylines, you know, overall, you know, more consistent. So yeah, man. I don't know what the answer is, and I don't, you know, who knows if they just stay here, you know, in this kind of general area, or something does change. But yeah, from that height that they did get to for that little bit, they are even so far from that. Like, I don't know, man. It's something that at this point, like, really, and I fear, like, at the end of WCW, right, the last like year and a half, 2 years, that's really kind of really what did it in was like, oh, Bischoff's he's had a creative, he's writing the show. Nope, he's fired. Russo's coming in. Russo's here for a month, and then he's fired, and now Bischoff's coming back. And if you get into something like that, then I mean, you're fucked. But they need a complete overhaul of the creative team at this point. I feel like you've had this run, and you in the past 2 years have really lost a lot, man. You really have. So yeah, I think they just need an overhaul of creative, because the talent, the wrestlers are there. I think the characters are there. The talent to sell themselves to the audience is there. It's just they're not consistent with any fucking thing, man. So
no,
I don't know. That's it.
No. And like it's like I'm looking at the results of this show, because I didn't watch the show, but I went back and watched it I didn't watch it live, but I went back and watched it Thursday, and it was like a perfect time for me to like get caught up with AEW, even with Collision. I even watched bits of Collision. The only thing that captivate, or maybe not captivate, but at least intrigued me to a degree, was Christian Cage on the microphone receiving gifts because it was a Father's Day edition of Collision. And freaking, of course, you guys know Christian Cage, that's his whole shtick, being the father figure, right? And that's the thing, like even like Christian Cage, Tony Storm, the Bucks, and controlling the company or taking over Tony Khan, and like they haven't been consistently telling that. Claudio Castagnoli versus Pac was your main event on freaking Dynamite. Think about that. Claudio Castagnoli versus Pac. Guys, much love to these two. Seriously, they're great performers. We have much love and respect for them. But in what fucking world, on God's green earth, when there's shows like Rampage and Collision that are pulling in 300 to 400 sem on at this point now, and your creative decision over all of these head writers in a boardroom to say, what should we end Dynamite tonight? Let's host this Owen Hart Cup, this tournament, another tournament, and place it in the main event of your show. Are you fucking kidding me, guys? Like, and that really sticks to you. Like, okay, wow, damn. Like now I know why the number is the fucking number when you kind of go over this show. But there's again a lot of these other segments, like they're trying to make something with Chris Statlander and Stokely Hathaway and this feud with Willow Nightingale. Even like Mercedes Moné, her booking has been shot since she's gotten there as a face. Nobody's buying her as a face. That shtick is botched. The whole Omega story with the Bucks and how we got sent in an ambulance, and all of a sudden, like, oh, don't worry, I got Eddie Kingston, Bryan Danielson, and Darby Allin to compete for me in Anarchy in the Arena. Motherfucker, you should be competing in this match. Like, guys, nothing adds up in this company.
No.
It just truly doesn't. And listen, I'm not going to pull an Eric Bischoff and just shit everything in droves because I'm sure he said a lot of things. And again, most of it that I've heard Bischoff talk about is very true.
I mean, it's very accurate. You know,
yeah. Yes. And some of it also,
I don't listen to him either, so I don't know exactly what he said, but I can imagine.
Yeah. And the thing is too, is that a lot of some of these issues that AEW does develop, some other promotions, again, like WWE, TNA, and many others, New Japan, also deal with the same thing. So it's not like it's just AEW,
right?
But it's also those little things as well as everything else in consistent quality television and storytelling, as well as the referees. They're so overly animated, like they just look like they don't know what they're doing. And just like you said, Brian, too, you know, people like Will Ospreay and all these other people, to where, yeah, they can do all these flips and dives and put on these great, tremendous power moves, but nobody's truly, at least for most of them, I can't say all of them, but most of them, they don't sell it, because it's always on to the next spot and to the next this and to the next that. And then there's MJF, to where MJF comes back, or allegedly is supposed to come back, in this babyface role, going after we thought was going to be Undisputed Kingdom and Adam Cole. And there was a little story, an Easter egg with Wardlow. And there was all this potential and this excitement. And now, not even a few weeks into this babyface run, he's facing some irrelevant fucking member from Cage of Agony. Are you kidding me? That's on a pay-per-view, for fuck's sake. It's a mess, bro. It truly is a fucking mess. And there's really nothing that I can honestly say at this point.
I mean, I can't speak for the man or whatever. And I'm sure, he has great times and he's getting paid and still doing wrestling and all that things. But I tell you, man, because I remember Shivani in his heyday. Like, there are times when the camera cuts to him, or like Excalibur or Taz or somebody else will say something on commentary, and I tell you, man, it looks like Shivani is just like, somebody fucking shoot me, please. Like, what are we doing, man? It's just like, you can see it on his face, like, what the fuck was that comment? Or again with like, you know, trying to go backstage and like the camera's not working, the mic's not working, the, you know, just some bullshit like that. And it's like,
Yeah.
like
Oh
I
my
feel for
goodness.
the guy, man, because Shivani's man, he's a Hall of Famer, dude. He's been
Shivani's
around for,
great. Yeah.
yeah.
Shivani's awesome. And like the connection that he has with Britt Baker in the past, that was really was
Mm,
really good, man. Like the backstage segments they would cut with
yeah,
Britt Baker and
yeah,
Shivani a couple of years ago was really good. I don't know what I guess Britt Baker is still dealing with an injury, as she's been injured
yeah.
for quite some time. So I don't know if she's still dealing with that and it's been more severe than we originally thought in regards to it. But I mean, and then you have like, and you mentioned TNA, Brian, to where even though TNA is in a really good position with this partnership, where you had a guy
Yep.
named Joe Hendry. I believe in Joe Hendry. That guy, if you know what his
See,
shtick is,
no, haven't seen
if you,
anything about him yet.
dude, it's the bro. I haven't really, I haven't really engaged in regards to Joe Hendry, but it seems like this dude has this shtick. He has this theme song, as well as he's also very charismatic and has good persona in regards to what I heard him cut a promo before he was entered in this said battle royal on NXT, determining a number one contendership for Trick Williams' world title. But I still need to watch more of Joe Hendry. But I know he's pretty well liked in the wrestling world right now. He's got
Right
this
on.
shtick that people like, that people are digging it. He's got this theme song that I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of, I can see why people find it catchy and amusing, honestly. But yeah, shout out to Joe Hendry and shout out to the TNA, Jordan Grace, and all those people on the TNA roster, because with this partnership with WWE, and who knows, you can have main roster talents go over to TNA. You can have NXT go over to TNA. We've already seen that with Paxley, I believe her name is, facing Jordan Grace. And I believe it
Yep.
was against all the odds in TNA's pay-per-view, where the Hardy Boys also made a return to TNA. So
Yep.
we'll see how that transpires in regards to that. I know. So and well, that's a different discussion with the
No,
Hardy Boys
yeah, no, I'm not even
for
touching that one.
for a different day, right? But yeah, so AEW, man, I've said it since the beginning about TNA. Tony Khan is his own worst enemy, and the only thing that's hurting AEW right now, it's not the talent. To an extent, it is kind of the talent, because they're not helping themselves get over. They're just trying to do all the maneuvers and all the power moves in less than 10 seconds, but yet it's forgettable, right? I say the same thing about a Ricochet match or a Mustafa Ali, a Dragon Lee, right? It's like they do all these great maneuvers and we're like, oh, this was a banger. But over the next 2 to 3 weeks, you're not going to go back and remember this shit. It's just another footnote of another wrestling match in the industry. And it's the same goes for people in AEW, like a Ray Phoenix or a Dante Martin or even a Pac or a Will Ospreay. It's just not memorable, and it just doesn't connect because you see it all the time. So on one end, it's the talent, but on the other end, it's Tony Khan, and it's been Tony Khan. And either he puts his pride and, dare I say, slightly his ego to the side, and maybe his money to the side. And he really needs to say, if he truly cares about pro wrestling, if he truly cares about these talents, then he would need to start making drastic changes, because, again, the guy that's trying to get this said TV deal with Warner Bros. Discovery, right, that for a year they can't get done, for an entire year. And I've spoken about WWE and their numbers about the USA Network, and they kicked Monday Night Raw to the curb, because even with Monday Night Raw as of late, their freaking ratings have dropped. And that's why you've seen this whole shtick with Netflix, coming up this calendar year. That's why Fox on SmackDown, Fox said, no, thank you. Your ratings have dropped. Like, again, guys, these ratings matter to these said television products, because the quality of the show is going backwards because nobody's tuning into it. And we're not gonna pay you billions of dollars to be on our network when nobody's fucking watching your product consistently. It's supposed to be a weekly episodic television show. So it's I don't know. Again, I know I
Yeah,
sound like I'm hammering a dead horse, but it's a shame, because, again, I know I speak very critical about AEW, and again, to WWE to a certain degree too. But it's a shame because I know what this company can do when everybody's booked properly and when everybody's on their A game, delivering quality, television and delivering quality television storytelling and everything underneath the sun of what this company can do to be just special, right? And to really captivate people and to bring back those niche audience and to bring in casual fans and to be the alternative to WWE. But I don't know, man. There's just, again, it's a mess. It's unfortunate. And again, there's really nothing else I need to say, or Brian, that you need to really say that hasn't really already been said at this point. But we'll see. I'm sure their ratings will maybe, we'll go back to a 600 some odd or so. Because I don't know how low. I mean, could they possibly go any lower than a 502,000? I really fucking hope not. So I don't know, man. I guess we'll see. Again, it's habit and hope with this company as well as wrestling in general. So, but we'll see. And regardless, we'll talk a little bit about Forbidden Door coming up in the next week and a half or so. And we shall see. Again, they'll probably put on another decent pay-per-view, even though the card overall, I'm just not. Nothing about this card is really like, man, I really need to watch this, unless there's just nothing to watch this coming or the following Sunday night. Will Swerve Strickland and Will Ospreay, probably that's it, just because I'm just interested to see where they go with that in regards to Swerve's title reign and Will Ospreay's trajectory and where they go with that. Outside of that, bro, nothing. I legit got nothing with Forbidden Door, and it's a shame. It's taking place in the most magical place on earth in Long Island, because like I said, your boy's from Long Island, and shout out to everybody from Long Island. So yeah, man, it's frustrating. It sucks, and it's a shame. AEW's world worst enemy is AEW, and it's
for sure.
And when Cody Rhodes left, man, there's just been something off. When Cody Rhodes left that company, I've stated it back then, and I'm stating it now, that something in regards to whatever Cody Rhodes made him decide to leave, whether that was to maybe still pursue, like he had something still he needed to finish over in WWE, but whatever it was, he felt like he needed to get out of there. And whatever that was, man, it's something has the aura, and something in that company has not been the same since. I don't know what it is.
Yep.
And it's just a shame, man. But we'll see with Forbidden Door and what AEW, I guess, has in store moving forward. But let's now get into SmackDown. We're already almost a half hour into the show, so we're going to jump into SmackDown, as a lot happened in this show. But let's start from the jump, man. Let's start straight from the jump from this show. And this was CM Punk. CM Punk from Chicago. It feels like CM Punk is just always in Chicago now,
right?
It feels like they're just always right. I thank God I'm not the.
I mean, it's like feels like out of like the last 10 appearances he's made, 6 or 7 of them have been in Chicago.
Right. It's just very interesting. So I just thought I'd bring that up. But so Punk is out there, of course, is the beloved Chicago people give him a great ovation and everything. And he talks about, pressure in regards to, Drew McIntyre and, the pressure in being in front of your people. Right, Drew McIntyre, he couldn't handle the pressure, and of course, talking about Clash at the Castle and everything. He talked about him quitting, and taking his ball, and he went home with it. So kind of just kicking Drew McIntyre while he's down again. But then Paul Heyman comes out, and you got some good nostalgia from frickin', especially for me back about 10 some odd years ago when Punk was legit the face of this said company, holding
the first
on to the
Heyman
title.
Guy.
The very first Heyman guy, holding on to the WWE title for 434 days. I still remember the exact title reign. But he's out there. They embrace in one big hug. So again, good nostalgia there. And that's when, Paul Heyman really starts to get emotional. It's like, listen, you need to get out of here because Solo's looking for you and Solo's not happy with you. And Punk's like, do you really? He's like, obviously speaking hypothetically, but he's like, do you really think I care if Solo Sikoa is unhappy with me in Chicago of all places? These people will jump the barricade just because of how much they love me, right? So Solo Sikoa comes out. He's got Tonga Loa and Tama Tonga beside him. And Paul Heyman like goes over to him. And he's like, "Take me with you," like this freaking like this. You ever see those movies, right? In the very dramatic scene, it's just like, "Take me with you." Like that's freaking Paul Heyman.
Yeah.
And then you see Solo Sikoa's face. He's like, you can see the look on his face. It tells you everything that you need to know. And then he goes over to, Solo talks about, I guess, having Punk acknowledge him since he, comes across now as the new tribal chief. And he's like, puts his finger up in the air as CM Punk. And he's like, I acknowledge the fact that I see a bunch of fake ass Usos and a cosplay of a tribal chief, pointing to frickin' Solo. As they now start to jump the apron, they start to try to do a 3-on-1 attack to Punk. You had Cody Rhodes come to the aid with Stinger bats, as I like to call it. Shout out to Sting, as they bring in both bats and they send the Bloodline retreating. Cody Rhodes set up a match for Solo Sikoa, which we'll get to later on in the show. And that was the opening segment, and I'll get to that later on. But the good stuff came later on in the show, which was backstage. You had Grayson Waller and you had DIY in like a screaming match. And they were right beside this like garage door. And all of a sudden you hear like the garage door like being rammed into. And we were like, uh-oh. And all of a sudden that sucker starts to slowly freaking rise like the sunset. And all of a sudden you see Punk laid out on the floor. And it's Drew McIntyre standing over him. It was such a beautiful shot. Whoever came up with the shot, like, hey, freaking... That was really fucking cool. You hear the gas from the people in Chicago, as then freaking McIntyre, he puts Punk on his shoulders and he walks him all the way to the staging area, drops him on the stage, and he kind of gets on one knee on the stage. And Punk is in a bloody mess. His face is bloodied up. He's got blood everywhere. And Drew McIntyre kind of lays on one knee, doing like the whole like clobbering time and everything, just like digging salt in the wound with Chicago. And then he took a bracelet from Punk. And I guess we'll find out more about this bracelet that he took maybe on Monday Night Raw this coming Monday about, I guess storytelling wise, kind of prolonging that. But he took a bracelet that CM Punk had on his wrist. So he takes that, he puts it in his pocket. Officials and security came out. Drew McIntyre shoves Nick Aldis, and I'm talking he shoves him, but Nick Aldis like gets right back into his face. So there's this big screaming match between Aldis and Drew. Nick Aldis has been tremendous, man. He legit feels like he does. This dude takes no shit, man, at all. It's just like, I love how he got, and that honestly, dude, I want to see Drew McIntyre and Nick Aldis now. Like, if Punk is gonna put freaking stay, depending on if he's cleared or not, as I'm sure he's pretty close to it.
Yeah,
and of course, this is to kind of buy time from CM Punk. I'm sure you may not see him maybe for a week or two with this attack. But this will kind of buy time for Punk to get cleared and everything. But I don't know, man. Again, not saying it's going to happen, but if they wanted to do something like that, man, Nick Aldis and Drew, after what transpired on the stage, sign me up, man. But yeah, Brian, I'll get your thoughts in just a second as, that whole screaming match, went on. And then Drew McIntyre stands tall. He, runs, or not runs, but just waltzes to the back. Punk gets carried out into a stretcher and into an ambulance. And that was the segment, man. Really good stuff. Brian, what are your thoughts, man, about Drew? We saw this coming, but this was so damn good in so many ways. But I'd love to get your thoughts, man. The floor is yours on Drew attacking CM Punk and sending him to the hospital in an ambulance.
Yeah, I thought it was a great opening segment, man, with Punk and Heyman too. Like, God damn it, Heyman is so good, man. And even with that setting up, like what however all this ends with everything, I mean, Punk or Heyman has a ties to a few different guys, right? So he's going to be playing a big part in how well the bloodline thing ends. Maybe something with Punk, who knows? But yeah, all in all, like great opening segment. And, I love the fact that McIntyre, again, in Chicago, which it had to happen that way, right? It had to be in Chicago where he did that. I'm on the fence with like, I mean, I do like the way they did it. I really have no issue with the way they did it. I just would have liked to have seen like what happened. Like I would like to have seen more of how this all happened, which maybe we'll see like footage or something in the next couple weeks. Who knows? But
Yeah.
um, yeah. Other than that, man, I thought all this was really really good, man. Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm sure they probably did that because, of course, again, who knows what the state is with CM Punk. And, obviously he's close to being cleared, but we don't know how close. So I'm sure this
Yeah.
is still to kind of buy time for Punk to stay healthy and to have this match for SummerSlam coming up. So I'm sure they kind of still wanted to protect Punk in a way. So they kind of stage this attack to still make it look badass and gruesome and
And what?
everything. So
Yeah.
yeah, and like you said,
It
and
was
like we
so
both
good.
said,
Yep.
it was still really, really damn good, man. And now,
Yep.
hopefully, now because I've spoken about Drew so many freaking times, right, in regards to this tweener shtick that he's been doing for months. Like, enough of it. I want this dude consistently now. We're done with Clash. We're done with Scotland. That whole spiel. This dude needs to consistently be a heel. Enough of this whole
Yeah.
back and forth in between character. No, you're consistently a heel now throughout the summer and moving forward, man. That's what we need within Drew McIntyre right now. And we've spoken about it too with Drew, to where, of course, there were, of course, dirt sheets about Drew being in Chicago, and of course those were true. But I'm glad that this wasn't like a long-term thing with Drew quitting. It like they just kind of went straight into it on
Yeah.
SmackDown, which honestly was the best bet, instead of kind of making this kind of drag out when it really didn't
Right.
need to. Especially with, because now we're at the point to where both of these two need to be telling their story, in the same setting, in the same arena, in the same, having both of their presence at the same time on these shows. So I'm really glad that they did that, and they didn't waste time. They kept the ball rolling with Drew and this allegedly quitting the company, and you wasted no time, and you had Drew McIntyre did this attack. So really good stuff. Dare I say, Brian, honestly, if I were to close this out on a hot take here, because it's really skeptical on at least two said main events that WWE has planned right now. One of them is what we think is probably going to happen, or at least that's at least talked about, is Priest and Gunther, right? Gunther's supposed to be getting this title shot at SummerSlam, and who knows with Seth and Priest, as they got a match for Money in the Bank. And then the other is Cody and Solo. And I'm like, okay, like, again, much love to Solo, and we'll get to that later. But this was the same type of follow-up or lead-up to a WrestleMania match for the last some odd years. And now it's going to be one of the main events for SummerSlam. So dare I say, Brian, if these are going to be your two said main events, if so, I mean, plans can change. I would not mind having Drew and Punk just be the main event for SummerSlam, if this is what their plan is, because this story is that much more intriguing to the wrestling fan right now than either of these two said matches. It's just like, I'd rather see freaking somebody that we're about to talk about later on against Cody Rhodes than freaking Solo and Cody, because again, Solo has just not been booked properly to even be in the main event, in a main event title picture, nor is he honestly really ready at this point. But we'll get to that later. So dare I say, man, because of how good this can still be, and which it has been really good on Drew McIntyre's end, on social media and doing all the funny to a degree, but just, all the digs and everything towards CM Punk and keeping that whole storyline alive. And of course, everything that transpired on Punk's end with Scotland, and as well as, of course, WrestleMania and costing him the title to a certain degree. So it's good, man. And people are just more into that right now than they are with Priest holding on to a title, Solo getting a title opportunity, and everything else around it that are allegedly supposed to be the main event of SummerSlam. So that's, at this point, man, if that's the plan, give me Drew and Punk in the main event over all of these matches, bro. I don't care. Because people, as well as myself, there's more intrigue with that than a lot of other things right now. But really good stuff with this segment. I'm glad they didn't drag out this whole quitting angle because it didn't need to. And yeah, really good stuff all around. And just again, the camera shot is what sold me, man, was just Drew standing over Punk, bro.
Yeah.
Shout out to again, production and whoever set up that camera shot. Maybe it is Triple H himself. If that's the case, hey, Paul Levesque, good shit, man. Really good stuff. So, but let's move on to our next topic. Our next topic is LA Knight. Yeah, it's been a while since we talked about this dude. As he was in a segment calling out Logan Paul, as it seems like this is going to be one of these marquee matchups for SummerSlam, which is going to be Logan Paul versus LA Knight for this United States Championship. So LA Knight comes out there and he's calling out Logan Paul to the ring, talking about taking the United States title away from him. Out comes Santos Escobar, Santos Escobar talking about him being delusional. He said, LA Knight's like, dude, I didn't ask for you. He kind of just interrupts him like he doesn't give a shit. It's like, dude, I'm not asking for you. I'm asking for Logan Paul. Like, what the hell are you doing here? So they go back and forth and everything in regards to that. And freaking Santos tries to get one up on LA Knight by kicking him in the knee or something like that while LA Knight's doing his shtick, but ends up just getting a BFT on top of it. And then LA Knight says some more words onto camera A, and gets attacked by Logan Paul from behind. He throws him into the ring post and then lays him out with that right hand and drops LA Knight where he stands. And Logan Paul, listen, I know a lot of people don't like this dude to a certain degree, man, but this dude is so good. He's getting amplified and screaming into LA Knight's face. Like, this dude is just putting on really good work, man. And I know, like, he's part-time, this and that, but I mean, we got to give credit where credit is due with Logan Paul. And I know we've been talking about Logan Paul and the credit that he has earned to a certain degree. Just the little things that he does do that not a lot of people that are 10 plus years in this industry can do as well as Logan Paul has done in a short amount of time. So really good segment, man. I really did like this. And, and I've spoken about LA Knight. Does he really need this United States Championship? Not really. Does it feel like a consolation prize to a degree? Kind of. As we've spoken about how, he was at the top of the top going for Roman Reigns' title, and now here he is in the mid card. So it is a shame on LA Knight to one degree, to where this dude was so white hot last year, and we've spoken a lot about LA Knight over the past year. And, people are talking about, I've had some, people have asked me like, oh, well, James, what if he wins Money in the Bank this year? I mean, great. But on one end, like, are you going to get the same type of moment that you could have got when he was white hot last year? Like I said, the same thing about Cody Rhodes. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's not going to be it's not going to be close. It's going to be a cool moment, but it's not going to be to the same degree, which you should have gotten last year. So look, I mean, at this point, man, Logan Paul and LA Knight, to a degree, it feels they're going to make it special. They've already put a lot of time and care and effort into it. So I can't say to not be special or to not be fun, because it can be a lot of fun, as it already kind of has been. There was a segment a couple weeks ago where LA Knight invaded Logan Paul's house and in Los Angeles. He's in his pool and everything. That was kind of funny. So yeah, I mean, both of these dudes are going to do their thing, and they're going to put on a tremendous feud and do tremendous storytelling. I just wish it was at a time to where LA Knight was he had all this crazy momentum like he had last year. Instead of now, it just feels like it's been derailed, if that makes sense. But good segment, really good segment. And I got really nothing to really kind of sneeze or to really, say that was bad to a degree. But Brian, your thoughts, man, this segment with LA Knight and Logan Paul.
Well, I'm gonna lay it all out there, man, because I really, this is how I feel about this dude now. I don't ever really want to talk about him again. If you're a Logan Paul fan, like, hey, you know what his show was last week, and look, the way I see it, either you share these views and opinions and thoughts, or you simply do it for the money grab and the click and whatever. Either way, I have zero respect for you. So that's great. While he can flip and, he's great in the wrestler, and I'll give him his kudos. And, it's part and parcel why I still had a problem with him. Because this is, again, it's it's the, like, as far as I don't see any integrity in him whatsoever, at all. He's a great athlete, picked up wrestling, really, really good. Past that, fuck this dude. Absolutely fuck him, 100%. And as far as LA Knight, man, I mean, LA Knight went out there and did his thing. And again, the way I feel like that, even with the WWE, like I think they have a choice to make here too. Are you So again, we've talked about it. This pay-per-view is going to be in Cleveland. I could see it going either way. It would, being in his hometown, that can also be a good story for him to lose in his hometown. But I feel like WWE again is going to go more the business route, and hey, this, we can get YouTube clicks and this and that and Prime sponsorship and all the other bullshit. And then so LA Knight takes an L. And if LA Knight takes an L to Logan Paul, like, I'm sorry, like, it's that really, like, true. And this is beyond what I feel about Logan Paul personally. I'm just talking about a wrestler. Like, if LA Knight loses to Logan Paul here for the title, like, I don't know how LA Knight really. I mean, I'll still watch him. He'll be entertaining, but I don't think he's whatever get close. He'll be like a guy like, oh, you'll be in the Money in the Bank match, one of the 6 people or whatever, but you're not going to win it. You'll be in the Royal Rumble. You'll be in the 6-man tag. Like, and Jesus Christ, man. So yeah, I don't know who's winning there. That's my, like, I feel like LA Knight's got to win there, but it's Cleveland. It's, Paul in his hometown. It's WWE wanting as many views and clicks and eyeballs. And let's face it, Cleveland isn't LA. You gotta sell people for fucking Cleveland. So yeah, man, I don't know. Paul's probably going to retain somehow. And I think that's really shitty for Knight. Really.
Yeah. Man, how do I respond to that? Yeah, I mean, in regards, I'll just talk about, I guess, the match, but or at least for SummerSlam coming up. Yeah, I mean, listen, it could honestly go either way. I mean, yeah, they could still go for the marketing ploy and, Prime and everything. Of course, they got this whole thing with Prime where the Prime bottles is in every single PLE in the center of that ring, and they got the hydration station beside the commentary tables and everything. So yeah, that could be the case in regards to it. And we know, like, when it comes to LA Knight and his booking, we take it with a grain of salt in regards to how truly high Triple H suits and ties are truly into this dude right now. So it can go either way as of right now, but it's just, at this point, Brian, even if, I mean, I'll still maybe feel a certain type of way if LA Knight does lose this match, which is honestly an option. It's not far-fetched.
Yeah.
For if
I had to say lose. Now, I'd say probably 60-40 that Paul's winning right now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, him being from his hometown, so you would think that if, you can honestly maybe see Logan Paul hold on to this United States Championship possibly till Mania. They probably something like.
God no.
Tell us how you really feel, Brian.
I'm just saying, like, I don't know. It's one of those things overall, and I don't want to get off on a tangent, but there's right. You can make the argument that there's one too many titles to begin with. But I feel like every title really should mean something. Like, it really was. And, maybe I do sound like the old man, but you had the world title, in the WWE, the Intercontinental title fucking meant something. In WCW, the US title fucking meant something. The tag team titles meant something. The Even like the television title in WCW, like they all had meaning, and now, it's almost seemingly none of them do, other than the world championships, and so it just, I don't know, if again, a part-timer like Logan Paul holding on, yeah, you can make the argument it's a mid-card title, but they've always been mid-card titles. That doesn't mean you can't make it important and prestigious and build stars with them and build storylines around them. Like, you can still fucking do that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
that's just, I just can't see him holding on to the title that long. And if it is, then god damn.
Because the thing is too, because if he wins at SummerSlam, like what other truly big
Yeah, I
said
don't know. Yeah.
big said pay-per-view or PLE that he would lose that to? I mean,
The Survivor Series War Games.
Survivor Series, maybe Royal Rumble, and then you have WrestleMania. Like, I just think that when it comes to Logan Paul and how he brings in a said demographic of fans, you would think it would be at a place like WrestleMania if it's not going to be at SummerSlam. So that's why I bring up WrestleMania.
They could, and
look,
like I said, they could do that because they're milking the money, man.
yeah. Oh yeah, and again, there's always money to be made, man, in every business, right? So I'll end it with this, and I'll try to make it short, because I hear where you're coming from, Brian, in regards to Logan Paul, and at the end of the day, with Logan Paul, just like any other celebrity businessman, they're there to promote their said brand, to make their money, to get their way. And I get it. They're not, obviously, for Logan Paul. Yes, his job is to promote Prime, to promote his business, to promote their entity into everywhere he goes, like not just WWE, but you see him in UFC events, you see him at this Tetris challenge thing. And he's a YouTuber, he's a global sensation, and he's made a name for himself before he even made Prime and all these other, projects that he's done over the years. But I do feel, Brian, to a certain degree, that just the way that Logan Paul does work to a certain degree and how well he does the little things, to a certain extent, I do truly feel like he does have a certain respect for the business. Now, granted, a lot of it, I'm sure, is heavily rehearsed, right, to a certain degree.
Oh, sure.
And honestly, the way that he has performed over the last, he's been in this company now, or he's been doing business with this company for the last, dare I say, 3 to 4 years. So it's, even however many times his matches are rehearsed, like, I've seen enough to where I'm very impressed that this dude can still, because he's still got to do it. He's still got to execute.
Oh, for sure. I'll never disparage anything he can do in the ring, because what he's done, nobody of his ilk, that hasn't done this for years has been able to do that. Nobody.
And of course, outside of that, Logan Paul has done, especially in his YouTube, Vine, shout out to the people who know Vine back in the day. Like, this was like 10 plus years ago, before it became pretty much TikTok that it is now. He's done a lot of shady shit, and he's done, I think there was this whole thing in Japan about with suicide and everything. I'm not going to go too in depth with that, but of course, people who know Logan Paul and his history know what I'm talking about. So this dude has done a lot of things that has upset a lot of people. And it's definitely, people can, forgive, but they can't forget, in a way. And even like his brother too. His brother is the same way, Jake Paul. I mean, I can't honestly.
I think that guy might be, actually, I think he might be worse. I don't know.
He is,
I think he might be worse.
He is worse, actually. Jake Paul is he's a schmuck. This dude, seriously. But yeah, like, look, man, they have the name because of what they've done, what their history is, and to an extent, and WWE has brought on them to help with their company, like people like Bad Bunny, right, who's a hip hop artist, because WWE doesn't want to take the time to build up other stars, but they want to bring up these said celebrities, because that's how we bring in casual fans now, is just bringing in. And hey, shout out to, again, these people. They do the deed, and they actually do a pretty decent job. But
Bad Bunny, Logan Paul, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah,
They've
but
killed it.
at the end also at the end of the day, you also would wish that WWE, and yeah, to a certain degree, they have made stars of their own, whether we like it or not. People like right now a Roman Reigns right now. People like a Seth Rollins right now. And many others that we can go down, a Charlotte Flair, whether again we like it or not. But you also you see so many other said talent like in LA Knight and others, and it sucks that the hard attention is not solely on them and maybe the mid-card division. It's just solely focused on Logan Paul. So absolutely, there's definitely an understanding of people feeling a certain type of way about Logan Paul, and and obviously his previous history in the past and some stuff that has upset a lot of people being a content creator and really being out of line to a very certain degree, as well as his brother Jake. They both the stuff that they've done in the past with content creating.
Here's the thing with people, those two specifically, or anybody like them, right? The way I view it is they're free to do whatever they want to do and have their views and put whatever they want up on YouTube or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Me personally, I'm always there comes a point with everybody, right? Like, okay, am I going to choose money and fame and the clicks and the whatever, or am I going to have a little bit of fucking dignity and integrity and hold on to that? And they sold that shit long time ago, and a lot of people do, and I get that's their choice, but that's where I draw the line. If you're choosing money and you're choosing this, whether you believe in it, whether you don't, whether it's just it's just a photo op, it's just a whatever for the money. That shows me a lot about who you are as a human being, man. I mean, whether people want it to be or not, it speaks volumes.
Yeah. No, and like I said, your point is very, very valid to a degree. And again, at the end of the day, it's just like WWE, and we've spoken about WWE and certain business decisions that people like Vince McMahon and other suit and ties.
Absolutely.
It's just there's always just money to be made in regards to just business, and that's it. People listen. There's a lot of good business people, and there's a lot of shady business people in this world. And
I say, as far as business world, as far as the ideal of what we talk about, the businessman, the Wall Street guy, the this or that or whatever, dude, there are far more corrupt motherfuckers than there are good ones. far more.
Facts. Absolutely. Oh, no, no doubt. Yeah. No doubt for sure. But but no, absolutely, Brian. I definitely hear where you're coming from in regards to Logan. It's very, very valid. Because
and LA Knight, and again, it's not even that stuff. This has a lot to do with LA Knight too. Is that he's gonna have to take the L now, and what the fuck, man?
Yeah, and who knows? I mean, who knows in regards to this matchup for SummerSlam?
Yeah, I mean, LA Knight still could win. Who knows?
I will go to the certain extent to where this is a huge deal for LA Knight if he does lose, because you're right. I mean, if he loses to Logan Paul, where do you go from there? You couldn't beat Roman. You couldn't get the world title. You now talk this big game. You talk about being LA Knight. Yeah. With everybody saying LA Knight. Yeah.
Right.
And you can't get the job done time and time again. And you take all of these just weird, devastating losses. And people, and you know what frustrates me, Brian, too? People always just say, oh, freaking LA Knight's going to be okay. LA Knight's going to be fine. Is he really, though? Because it's not a guarantee.
If he loses that match at I don't know anymore. Up until now, I was like, yeah, he'll be all right. If he loses that match, I really don't know, man.
Yeah, no, for sure. But the thing is, the reason why I've stated about that with fans, it's just it's not really a guarantee that he is going to, even if he does get a win or two here or there. And he's had his moments with AJ Styles and that whole invading his house. That was freaking great. Again, like I said, with him invading Logan Paul's house, which was a good, decent segment. Even this segment.
Sorry to cut you off, but you thought that was, you like that? Cause I thought that was, man, the way LA Knight was, talking about it the week before, all right, I'm coming to see you. And then he's just in his pool, and then he just casually walks out. I was like, what the fuck is this shit? Like, I thought it was, I mean, it was, the back and forth, the talking was kind of entertaining, but overall, I was
Yeah.
like, man,
I guess
that's fucking lame as shit. Like, you just walk the fuck out.
I guess they were trying to go the angle of like trying to get his attention, like trying to get underneath his skin, like, hey, listen,
Yeah.
I want your United States championship. Like you're trying to like, pass me like I'm just this schmuck, this jobber. Let me go to your house and say and show you that I'm not to be messed with. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, getting underneath your skin until you give me what I want, which is this United States title. So I think that that's what they're trying to do. But yeah, but like you said, it comes across in these promos that he's been cutting that he's coming for him to put his hands on him, instead of just like saying a few words.
Because I think it looked bad for both of them, really, because you're right. On the one hand, you have LA Knight saying, or in a threatening way, like, yeah, I'm coming to kick your ass. And then you have Paul showing up at his house, and LA Knight has either broken in or, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're a man of the house coming home and there's some other man in your house that's broken in, like, aren't you fucking fighting, like, on the spot? Like, what the fuck? Like, so yeah, I think they both look bad. I didn't get that segment, man.
Yeah,
Because when LA Knight said it the week before, I really was looking forward to see what they were going to do, and that was it. And I was like, oh, that's okay. That was pretty weak, man. But all right.
No, it's understandable. And again, it's more of the fact that like, oh, okay, Logan Paul doesn't want to show up to SmackDown. All right, well, let me just go to Logan Paul and see where he's at, and let me get underneath his skin. That way, he needs to show up on SmackDown, so that way I can get his. But like you said before, like if he really just wants to get his hands on him, then why not just invade his house like you did, and attack him and put on some really good television, and like you did with AJ Styles and at his place. But so yeah, no, it's very, again, it's also very valid. Again, I was still fine with it. I really didn't mind it at all because I kind of understood what they were trying to do. Instead of like I always kind of like dissect the segment. I'm like, okay, what was trying to be accomplished here? Because I just watch segments and I'm like, okay, what are we trying to accomplish here? But at least with this segment, I understood what they were trying to accomplish, if that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, could have been better? Sure, absolutely. I mean, trust me, like this isn't, I can always state like it can always be better. But I'm always also fine with the attempt of getting away from the ring and getting away from backstage. And at least I respect the attempt in regards to that. And I said the same thing about the like the Tony Khan segment of him getting taken out and laid out by the Bucks, right? And how for years AEW doesn't end the shows in a certain fashion. It's just like, okay, it's a banger match for 10 plus minutes. Good night, everybody. But now they finally kind of went outside the box to end the show to try to gain some buzz, right? So
right
to that extent, because yeah, no, absolutely. Because again, I'm not saying this was great or this was perfect or like freaking the Wyatt Six, as well as again the main event topic, which we're going to get into, but I was still fine with it. I respect the attempt for getting away from the ring, and that's just pretty much how I visualize it, if that makes sense. But yeah, we'll see in regards to LA Knight, man. This is kind of dare I say make or break for LA Knight at this point.
It might be, yeah.
It really might be. And the reason why I've said what I said about LA Knight, it's just like I can't guarantee, because you can tell when WWE really wants to protect somebody. We're seeing it from Braun Breaker. We've seen it from Charlotte Flair for years. We've seen it with Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and all of these other people. But you weren't really sure with LA Knight. Like, you can't really confidently say the way LA Knight's been booked and say, yeah, he's going to be fine. I was never solely confident in that from the jump. And this is where we're at, and where we could potentially be at after SummerSlam. So we'll see in regards to it. But real quick, before we do get into our final topic here, I do want to mention these Money in the Bank qualifying matches. Now, again, I can't stand qualifying matches. I just can't, because it's just, again, it just feels like another one of those said tournaments, right? You got to win this match to move on and be in this said match, right?
You gotta win
That's
this
just how
match to win this match, and if you win that
right.
match, you win this match.
It's just like, listen, select the people that you want for this fucking ladder match, and that's it. And then maybe you can plant seeds and dissect some maybe future feuds of the people that are in this match for previous PLEs, right? And just go from there. But we're wasting time with qualifying matches. It's just weird.
And hey, who knows? Maybe even a couple days beforehand, before said big match, you might even find out you get a future title shot because you won a week ago.
Oh, good old Triple H, Paul Levesque, McMahon booking, right? So first thing I want to mention is the women's, because that's the one, at least the positive that I want to bring up, is the women's qualifying match, to where you didn't really see a whole lot of this match because most of this match was in commercial. I think you pretty much saw like 3 or 4 minutes of this match.
Yeah.
But Chelsea Green won this match. Chelsea Green won this match over Bianca and Michin. Bianca hits the KOD. Frickin' Chelsea Green tosses Belair out of the ring, and she pins Michin for the W. And the crowd frickin' goes pretty wild when she frickin' gets, when the final 3 count hits, as Chelsea Green is going to Toronto for Money in the Bank. And I actually liked how she won this match. This was very believable for her said character, because when I first heard that she won the match, because I didn't see the match
with Bianca
live
in there, I know. Yeah, I was like,
I didn't see it live, and I was like, wait, with Bianca, like, really? That's interesting, because you would think too on one end, like, it's Bianca, they maybe want some star power in this match, right, to promote the ladder match and everything. But they went on Chelsea Green. It's like, okay, cool on Chelsea Green, but how did she win this matchup? So then I was able to finally watch, and I'm like, all right, I like the way that was done to promote and to make it feel believable for Chelsea Green's character, as well as, of course, Bianca doesn't take the pinfall. Michin, I mean, she's kind of back and forth on NXT and WWE at this point. But so I like that. And dare I say, man, listen, I know I've spoken about Tiffany maybe potentially winning this briefcase, but the way her momentum has also been derailed, it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case. So if we're going to get Miss Money in the Bank being Chelsea Green, let's fucking do it. Seriously, I'm all for it, but it's going to come down to, Brian, how she wins the briefcase, as well as moving forward to where she does do so freaking well in this shtick, this comedy shtick. If she is going to hold on to this briefcase and potentially go after a said world title, we need to definitely, at least to a certain degree, kind of cut back the comedy, because at some point, if she is going to be a future champion, we have to take her seriously to a degree instead of just the comedy act, if that makes sense. But I'm all for it, because she could do a lot of good things with that briefcase in matchups and storytelling and feuds. So yeah, I'm all for it, man. The crowd is behind it, so you might as well strike while the iron is hot. So I like what they did there. And I'll try to make this short. Carmelo Hayes versus Randy Orton versus Tama Tonga. What was it? Carmelo Hayes won this match via the awe-inspiring roll-up finish on Randall Keith Orton, as Orton was distracted menacingly with Kevin Owens beating up Tonga Loa for felt like over a minute and a half, just staring on the outside, and then he gets rolled up. Like, guys, think about that. Carmelo Hayes, right? This is no shade to Carmelo, but the guy's probably my height. He's probably about, at best, 5'11". I think he's like maybe 5'10", maybe 5'10" or so.
Foot, yeah.
And this dude is rolling up Randy Orton, the guy who is what, 6'5", 6, like the dude. It's crazy to think that Randy Orton nowadays in pro wrestling is considered one of the big guys in wrestling now. But he's rolling up Orton.
I didn't realize how small Carmelo Hayes was until a few weeks ago when I saw him next to Randy Orton. And like you said, because Randy Orton you don't think of as like a big guy, but I was like, holy fuck.
I was right. I said the same thing. I was like, dude, the height difference on this shit. It is insane. Like, Carmelo's either, like, is Carmelo just that smaller, or is Randy Orton that much taller than we thought?
Right.
But yeah, he's rolling up Orton. Orton just has to just stay there, because if he knows if he even budges his shoulder, it's gonna
Whoa.
botch. Yeah, exactly. It's gonna get botched. And guys, it just looks so silly. If you want to make listen, good for Carmelo. He actually needed this victory, because I've stated about Carmelo, all this dude has done has just missed. Right? He talks about Melo don't miss, but all he's done is miss. Right? But he actually won this match, and good for him, and he needed it. But why a roll up, man? Why make Orton do this roll up finish, and he has to stay there like a turtle on its shell, and just stay there, because he knows if he even budges, the shoulder's going to roll up off the mat and it's going to get botched. And it just makes Orton in that position just look so just look horrible. It just looks stupid.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts about that, Brian, real quick, before we go to this final topic?
Well, I mean, I'll just speak on the women with Chelsea. I mean, yeah, it was kind of a surprise victory. I think right now, because like you said, if she were to win Money in the Bank, it can't be in her current character.
Right.
I feel like the Money in the Bank, like that needs to be a serious storyline. You can't have a comedy gimmick with that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Chelsea's kind of, at least at this point, still going to be in that match just for the comedy gimmick moments of the match.
And that's still possible, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, like future down the road. I mean, I had mentioned it last week, even with Piper Niven. Like, what I think Piper Niven has something. I think Chelsea Green has something. Whether you keep them together or they're doing something else, I don't know. But I think both of them could be really, really good assets to the company.
Oh yeah.
And then with the men, I mean, yeah, great for Carmelo. I didn't expect Randy, or was it Tama Tonga or was it Tonga Loa? I can't even remember which one.
It was Tama Tonga was in the match.
Tama
Tonga
Tonga.
Loa is who interfered with KO.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, because I mean, you knew they were gonna just kind of continue that feud and whatever. Like, I didn't expect either one of them to win the match or be in the Money in the Bank. So
right, yeah. I just wish that it just didn't make Orton look foolish, man. Because I get it.
That's that was horrible.
Like, it was horrible, man. Like, again, it just makes people look stupid. That's why I can't stand it. Like, to a certain degree, like if he's in there for like maybe 20 plus minutes in this match and people are like exhausted, they're dead tired, they're just throwing the kitchen sink at one another, then that's one thing, right? And obviously due to maybe some other circumstances, but like that's not the case. Like he gets distracted for over 90 seconds, and then Melo rolls him up enough to put his shoulders on the mat for 3 seconds, and then man, like he won the match, that's great. Again, he needed this victory. Orton and Tonga are doing their shtick with the bloodline and everything. That's fine. But just, can we not end this match in a different way than that roll-up finish, man? That's my only gripe about that in regards to it. Andrade won his qualifying match to where, and I've spoken about this I was live on Instagram, what was it, 2 nights ago, kind of talking about Andrade. The dude has been on this show called Speed. I believe it's like on Wednesday nights on social media or whatever. And they're 3-minute matches, and he holds on to this Speed championship. He actually brought it to the ring. It's just like, so the only thing that I can honestly, take, or any takeaway that I have with Andrade, is just that, okay, cool. He's in this match. He's going to be in some highlights to make this match the ooh and ah of the match. Right. But like, what's the follow-up now with Andrade? Is he just going to go back to Speed once this is over and just keep doing that? Or are we actually going to start making Andrade somewhat of just a relevant piece to this company and this show? So that's just, so I take that with a grain of salt. Like, oh, look, see, finally we got something with Andrade. I'm like, okay, yeah, he's probably not going to win this match, but can we use that maybe momentum in this match to maybe prolong him to a feud or some sort of like just anything of direction? But to me, I just don't think that's the case. It's just to place him in this match because he's another, one of those talents to where they're going to do all the cool maneuvers, the ooh and ahs off the ladders and off the barricade and this and that. And then he's just going to go back to doing what he's doing, going back to Speed and facing people like fucking who the fuck knows? At least not a Ricochet, at least not yet. Who knows in regards to his contract situation if he is leaving the company. and signing somewhere else. But so yeah, man, it's just kind of on eggshells with that. But moving on, let us move on to our main dish for the show, and that was the end of the show, which was a main event match with Cody Rhodes, your undisputed WWE champion, versus Solo Sikoa. This matchup did not last long, and nor should it. As the bloodline gets involved, both Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa. Of course, Orton and KO, they come to the aid for Cody Rhodes. I really thought for a second, Brian, I'm not kidding, we were going to get an impromptu 6-man tag. That's where my freaking head was going, because I just have seen it so many times. It's just, I guess, maybe nostalgia of just run-in saves after an abrupt interference in a match that only lasted maybe 2 minutes. So that's where my head was going. And I'm like, oh, please don't do that. Please, for the love of God, don't do that. But then, the brawl continued to ensue, and then everybody, both Cody, Orton, and KO, had Solo pinned into a corner, and Solo's pleading, he's begging, and all of a sudden he starts like laughing hysterically, and somebody just out of nowhere, no one pun intended to Orton, but attacks them from behind. He first went up after Orton, then attacked Cody, and then went straight for KO, and it was Jacob Fatu. That's right. Jacob Fatu has arrived in WWE. We've been hoping and been wondering when this dude was going to make his debut. Well, here he was this past Friday, attacking all members, both Orton, Cody, and KO, laying all of them out one by one. He puts Cody Rhodes through a table, the Uso splash from the ring post through the announce table, which was badass, man. Dude looks like incredible shape, too. This dude looks lean. He looks in good shape, at least the best shape that I've seen him in, at least in his days in MLW and New Japan and many other places. The dude looks awesome, man. And so he lays out Cody through the announce table. All the bloodline comes together. They hold up the ones to the hard cam, and SmackDown goes off the air, man. So listen, what's not to like, man, about this ending? Seriously, Jacob Fatu, and dare I say, Brian, to where I've been on eggshells with this said faction for a while, to where good for Solo, right, that he's in this shtick, but I just don't know how, and because of the fact that they've just been in so many redundant segments with KO and lately at times with Randy Orton, and there has nothing been unique outside of Paul Heyman, who's been doing his job beautifully, as he always does. But now with Jacob Fatu, now with this group, now things are starting to, business is now picking up, as Jim Ross would say. As dare I say, Brian, and listen, this is much love to Solo. This is no shade to him, and I'm glad that he's getting this shine and this opportunity as this new leader of the bloodline. But in one night, Jacob Fatu already feels like a bigger deal and more captivating than Solo Sikoa right now. Seriously, I would rather watch Cody face Jacob Fatu at SummerSlam than Cody versus Solo Sikoa. And the reason why, Brian, nothing against Solo, but it's the way he's been booked. Because I've stated this for weeks. This dude was 0-40 in his last 40 matches since the Cena match. And to people say, I'm not sold on this faction. I'm just not interested in this faction. And to those people, I hear where they're coming from, because Solo has not been properly booked to be in this said situation, to where, okay, you lose all these matches. You get, you have to force yourself to get yourself disqualified or whatever the case may be. And now WWE Creative, the genius that I keep hearing about Triple H, is that now let's make this dude the leader of a faction. And nobody's going to really bat an eye over it, right? It's just come on, man. And now he's going to get a said title opportunity. The same guy that was the fall guy to Roman Reigns going into WrestleMania the last 2 years. And that's going to main event SummerSlam, or at least be one of? Come on, man. I don't know. And that's why I mentioned Drew and Punk about it earlier. So, but outside of that, let me get to Jacob Fatu, and then Brian, I'll let you get your thoughts, man. Listen, and it's great to see Jacob Fatu obviously get this kind of debut, obviously to make him feel special and unique. And of course, I'm sure not a lot of casuals or a lot of people, again, just casual audience in general, don't know much about the dude. But in one night, Brian, this whole shtick with the new bloodline has, for now, turned into a 180 with the addition of one member, and that is Jacob Fatu, to where just the vibe and the aura of now this faction, because of Jacob Fatu, has now drastically changed. And who knows, does another said member like Zilla Fatu get added into this, maybe on Roman Reigns' side, along with Roman and the Usos? But I will say this too, man. War Games for this coming November has definitely started to pick up of what this could and should be moving forward if they do this right, to where we most likely are going to see Roman return around SummerSlam, as well as probably Jimmy Uso. You probably won't see The Rock until after SummerSlam, just because I think that The Rock just has a lot of other said projects with Hollywood and everything else. So I don't think you're going to see The Rock before SummerSlam, but I think at some point leaning more towards Survivor Series and leaning more towards the Rumble and Mania is where you'll most likely will see The Rock, and probably have this said match with Cody and see where the chips fall, and potentially finally getting Roman and Rock in a one-on-one match. So, but Jacob Fatu, we were expecting this for a while now. We got it. It was a good little twist, to where I actually thought freaking the Wyatt Six was gonna show up to this past Friday. Yeah. So that was actually a cool little twist, because Nick Aldis stated about extra security being added and how the Wyatt Six wasn't gonna get, or not gonna invade and cause chaos in his show. So you were thinking, hey, we're gonna see some version of the Wyatt Six in some form or fashion, but he got Jacob Fatu, which was still was a nice little twist and a nice little term of events there. So much love to Jacob Fatu. And I'm telling you, man, if they let this dude be him in this said faction, this faction went from here to here in the span of just 1 week. So we'll see. There's a lot of potential of what this could and should be, and we shall see how the chips fall. But Brian, your thoughts, man, about Jacob Fatu and his WWE debut?
Yeah, the debut and how it went off the air, man, I thought that was fantastic. Yeah, really, really good. And I hear what you're saying about Solo. I guess for me personally, the saving grace for me with the bloodline is that, at least for me, they've gotten me, which each of these three debuts, right? Because the first one being Tama Tonga, right? Everybody had heard that Jacob Fatu had signed way back then. So I was expecting Fatu then, right? So they got me with Tonga's debut, which was excellent. And then I hadn't even heard, I mean, I'm sure other people have, on the internets and on the blogs and whatever, but Tonga Loa, I didn't even know that he was coming. So when he showed up, that was a surprise for me.
Yeah.
And so, of course, now when Jacob Fatu finally shows up, I'm thinking, okay, well, he's got to be, with Roman and Jimmy and Jay maybe. But no, man, there's now 4 members of this new bloodline, and they look fucking badass, and it throws everything. Like, I have questions now, like so if it's these 4, like, yeah, who's going to be the 4? Oh, actually 5 if you include The Rock, if we assume that Rock's with them. So then you have Roman, Jimmy, and Jay on the other side. Who are the other 2 people? So yeah, and actually, I was also thinking too, well, there is these 4 members right now. Are they in the faction that they're going to stay in? You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it just throws a lot of questions in the air for me, man. So all in all, I love it. And they've kind of, shocked me, swerved me with the way they've done these 3 debuts. Mm-hmm. And that to me has kept this bloodline story going for me. So
yeah, and like you said too, and I completely agree about, the debuts and how they made it special and everything. Same thing what we said about the Wyatt Six. But the thing is, in regards to that, Brian, and I've stated, and I hope that this is the case now, they need to continue this momentum now more than ever with Jacob Fatu a part of this, because what I don't want to see moving forward, and you've kind of been seeing it before this whole edition of Jacob Fatu, is that you see the same run in saves and the run in attacks and the kind of the redundant shtick that we've been doing with Solo and this new faction. Not that it's not cool to see that these members are not valuable assets, nor should they be, as well as their debut. Because yeah, their debut and the shock factor and everything was tremendous. But outside of that, the continuation and the follow-up has just not been there, to where we just see them brawling with Kevin Owens for weeks and months, as well as with the Street Profits. And we've stated that over the last several weeks. And I really hope it's not the case with Jacob Fatu, to where we just see, run-in attacks or run-in saves and retreats up the rampway, right? Make this faction unique. Do some shit backstage. Make them feel, right? Just like like I said about the Wyatt Six. Make them feel like a main asset. Have them tell their story throughout the night. Have them really create chaos and tell people like Roman Reigns, who's probably watching at home, that they mean fucking business, bro. And the stuff that you can do with Fatu and his mannerisms and what he brings to the table, that is what at least keeps me hopeful on what you can do creatively. Just think outside the box is what I'm saying, right? As well as for Solo, right? And that's what's kind of hurt Solo, because he's the leader, said leader in all of this, and it just doesn't feel to the certain extent to where the other tribal chief, Roman Reigns, has been over the last 4 years holding onto his said title. So that's the only thing I have. And I don't disagree with what you're saying. Again, the debuts were great. I just don't want things to be redundant. I don't want the 6-man tags and the tag matches and the singles matches, just a revolving door of matches, a revolving door of the same segment, just to kind of buy time for when Roman Reigns gets here. Because when Roman Reigns gets back, it's going to pick up. We know that. And there's going to be buzz. People are going to be talking. We know that. But I don't want that to kind of just buy up time. You know what I'm saying? Like, to where we just see the same revolving door of the same segment, because we've been seeing it with the Street Profits and KO and all of these other additions of, who can we add to make this bloodline faction feel dominant? The Street Profits, Kevin Owens. Let's just brawl and face each other over the next several weeks. So that's it. Not saying that these debuts and that Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa and the surprise of this edition, because again, I said it from day one, this faction could be really good. It's just that they're not giving me a reason, because of what they've been doing and following up, to make me say, wow, this faction feels unique, different to the original bloodline with Roman and the Usos and Solo by himself, right? That's it. In regards to that. But I love this debut. I love the show going off the air. It was a nice little twist and everything. And yeah, like I said, War Games, not just getting excited for Money in the Bank, SummerSlam and beyond, but War Games, man, to where whatever they got cooking, because we know, and I'm still stating this, that The Rock is the man behind the scenes doing all of this with Solo and everybody else. Right. So hopefully there's just a said plan, but I just don't want this to drag out until Roman and The Rock come back, to where things kind of are at a halt, if that makes sense. So, but we'll see. We shall see moving forward in regards to it. So, but Brian, any final thoughts before we wrap things up?
No, man. Just with who's already there, and we assume other people have to be coming, I guess. I just think it's set up to, whenever it happens, it's going to be awesome.
Oh, for sure.
And once everybody is back too, and however this pans out, I also look forward to someday down the road, there's got to be some form of the bloodline against the Wyatt Six, man. That has to happen too.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see in regards to.
I mean, that's way down the line, but I'm just saying, man, you got these factions, like, that's going to be badass.
Yeah, I mean, and we'll see how things are portrayed with the Wyatt Six and how what the plan is for the Wyatt Six. But like you said, yeah, that's going to be months and maybe, dare I say, many
years.
moons. Yeah, maybe a year or so down the line. But yeah, so again, this show better than most, man. And honestly, what did it for me was Jacob Fatu and this surprise debut and the Drew and Punk attack. That's what really did it for me in regards to it. You also had some other good things too, but what really did it was Drew McIntyre and that attack and Jacob Fatu ending the show, which definitely added a spark and headlines and everything. So, and that was it, man. So really good stuff all around. And hopefully, the momentum and the follow-up continues to build more and more and more. And we shall see in regards to that. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. This was another edition of the Ruthless Talk podcast. Make sure you guys stay tuned as there is more to discuss leading up into Money in the Bank, as well as there's going to be a lot to see or what's to come with the Wyatt Six. What are they going to do for this coming Monday night on Raw? We're going to talk all about it this coming week. Of course, more follow-up with Drew McIntyre and this bracelet. I mean, who knows? Maybe some storytelling to be told there. But a lot of good stuff. And of course, we got our Money in the Bank review coming up. That'll be the said weekend of when Money in the Bank is, which is around July 6th. So make sure you guys stay tuned for it on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all of our platforms. And make sure you guys follow us on social media. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok. That is Ruthless_Talk. I want to thank everybody for making us hit over 1,700 followers on TikTok. Thank you guys so much. 1,700 followers on our platform. Thank you guys so much. We're almost at the cusp of 200 followers. I believe we're less than 20 subscribers away on YouTube, as we're at the cusp of 180 subscribers. So definitely you guys spread the word, subscribe to our YouTube channel, as well as hit that notification bell. So that way you don't miss a reminder of a upcoming episode on the channel. And yeah, there's a lot of good stuff to go over right now. This was actually a very darn decent week, Brian, for WWE with the Wyatt Six, NXT, and their big reigning this past Tuesday. And the way that SmackDown went off the air with Jacob Fatu. So hopefully things just continue to build and things continue to fall up. So Brian, your final thoughts before we end the show.
Just thanks everybody once again, man, for liking, subscribing, watching, spreading the word, man. And definitely Bloodline, that shit's about to heat up, man. Definitely looking forward to that.
Absolutely. For sure. Couldn't say it any better, honestly. That's gonna be wait for it, Brian. A banger, right?
Right.
That's gonna do it for today's episode, everybody. My name is James Porcelli.
I'm Brian Thomas.
Until next time, there will be a next time. Your boys are signing off saying salute.
Peace out.
And take care, everybody. Top guys.
Carry on.